Hi, everyone. Thanks for stopping by. Today I want to get really, really personal. This is a little bit unusual for me. Typically, the topics that I like to discuss and write about are just really centered around things that I have learned from working with plants like ayahuasca and wachuma. This is no different in a way, but it's going to be a really personal exploration of my journey with the plants. I'm doing it because I think it's really relatable and it might be of use to people who are on the path and are kind of grappling with some similar things. So, ironically, my most well-read blog post to this date is about a 5-year-old post that I wrote after I had decided to leave the world of ayahuasca shamanism, even after a 10-year apprenticeship. And so I want to clarify a couple things. First, of why I left and why I came back, because I've never written the why I came back part or recorded it. I've never talked about that part publicly, so that's what this is. So in a nutshell, the reason why I left, so I want to be really clear, I didn't leave ayahuasca. I've never left ayahuasca. What I left is the world of shamanism because I got really disenchanted by the abuse of power. I mean, heartbroken. Just to summarize, I've had a teacher put in prison for violating women sexually on the medicine, and I saw the beginnings of this early on in my work with him and cut things off, and then it escalated to the point a year or two later where he was in jail. So that's heartbreaking. I have another teacher, my teacher's teacher actually, who is basically famous or infamous on the internet for having violated women sexually multiple times. He's not been held accountable in a legal sense yet, but it's very clear that he too has gone to the dark side. I had another teacher who I was deeply, deeply close to, extremely loyal, loved him to the moon and back, would have done anything he asked me to. And he basically got into a place in his lifestyle where he was doing some very, very dark and destructive things, and he wasn't being honest with me about it. And so the ceremonies that I ended up having next to him, in support of him, got so incredibly dark. There was one where I literally wanted to commit suicide. And I was very confused about what these energies were about. And, I'll go into that in a deeper way later on, but it's this very intimate relationship to be in partnership with someone in the medicine, especially as like teacher-student. And that deeply damaged me, traumatized me, and we had a horrible falling out and didn't speak for years. And so I was really, really heartbroken about that. And then last, I worked with one more guy right after all of that happened. And he ended up in the second ceremony cycle we did together, intentionally and disgustingly abusing and manipulating some of the masculine men in ceremony so that they would have a really dark and frightening experience. The only thing I can ascertain is that he did that because he likely was hurt by the masculine at one point in his life, so he was seeking revenge. Not an excuse, and it really was the last straw for me. On the day that I decided to leave the medicine, my altar, I had a little bit of ayahuasca on my altar and it blew up. Got medicine everywhere. I was like, well, that's my sign. I'm out. And again, it wasn't about her. It was about the world, the abuse of power, which I understand happens in every avenue where men or women are able to get power that is unusual and authority. It's just humanity, we abuse it. I recognize that. But in this place in particular, it's just so heartbreaking that the space where people go to get healing is often the place where they learn more about trauma, because it's just such a high degree of integrity and relationship with your ego that is required to do this work in a way that people actually get the healing that they deserve. And it's not a job, it's a lifestyle. I mean, you just never get to completely push that aside, that your responsibility is to continue to be a clean vessel and to be in integrity. And we don't have to be perfect as facilitators, but we have to know that the relationship that we have with our egos is a job that will never go away. There's no place in which we arrive. And the way in which we sometimes do guru worship with the practitioners, the shamans that we feel like have these special gifts, it's not doing anybody any favors. It's creating a superiority complex, and there's only one place to go. When somebody is given a pedestal, eventually they'll come crashing down. I am guilty of doing that with especially one of my teachers, and I own that. I own that was part of my role in that creation. But all that to say is it was the space of recognizing that the idea that healers exist, to me, is crazy now, because unless you count that we heal ourselves. I am not a healer in that I don't heal anybody else. I create a set and setting where it's possible with the medicine. I don't get credit for the magic that happens, but a lot of people take credit, and it's not honest, it's not healthy, and it does not create a safe container. I'm grateful all of that happened to me now, because now I have a deeper understanding of really what it does take to create a safe container. I had my face first like slammed into the reality of what it looks like to become the guru worshiping individual, or to not do your own healing before stepping into this space and therefore intentionally harming others. And these are good people, all of them, by the way. They don't have evil written across their forehead. I think we wish that people that do these things were more easy to identify, but it's just not the case sometimes. Regardless, that's why I left, is this whole sort of existential crisis and the heartbreak around why people abuse their power. And so then what happened, I had months of incubating, of getting mad at the medicine, of letting myself go through that process, of, really expressing how angry I was that I sacrificed everything in my life for the apprenticeship. I gave up a marriage, a relationship with my stepson, my company, 2 companies actually, like things that were near and dear to me. And I felt like, at that time anyway, it was all for naught. I was wrong. The end of the story hadn't come yet, but it was it was one of the most profoundly sad and painful times of my life. But then, ironically, I decided to write that blog so that I could really speak to the community, my Vegas peeps that I had left behind, and tell them why I wasn't doing that anymore. And that became this catalyst that the medicine really used to get me back to her, because maybe 4 or 5 months later, I got an invitation to work at a retreat in Costa Rica, and it was my time to come back with empowerment and a lot of joy, actually, because I had done the healing. So why did I come back? That's the question that spurred me to create this video. I came back because I never left. My devotion to this medicine is never ending. She is my number one, as is Wachuma. And I may ebb and flow in terms of my own ability to handle the intensity of this job, but I will never leave them. They may oust me again. Sometimes you get really identified with something and the universe has to cut it. Here's the really funny part about this is these tattoos, they're all dedicated to the medicine. I got them, and this all happened shortly thereafter. It's like that thing, where if you get a tattoo of the person that you're dating, you're probably going to break up. Yeah. I'm a living proof of that. And now it's funny. It wasn't that funny then. I tried to laugh, but in any event, that's how it all played out. And I came back because it was just time. And I'm really, really grateful to have had the experience of that breakthrough. My publisher that I'm working with on this book I'm writing has this funny expression. He said to me he doesn't trust a shaman that hasn't left at least once, because it's such a difficult job. It's a never-ending lifestyle, actually, where the job of maintaining that integrity with the ego, it's just never ending. So I figured a lot of you could relate to, the plight of the frustration around the abuse of power. And we're going to explore that more. If you hang with me through the journey, I'm going to talk a lot more about that, because it's really prevalent and it's something that's really painful. But there's so much to learn from that. And also from knowing that we get to be human and have our breakdowns. And it wasn't a disrespect to ayahuasca or wachuma that I had to go through that. Just the opposite, because I came out the other side more dedicated, more madly in love with them, and honored to be of service than I was even before. So that's it in a nutshell. Thank you for asking, all of you who've been curious about my process. I want to know about yours. If you're grappling with any of these things and you just want support, or you just want somebody to share it to, I welcome it. Comments, or you can email me at kat@afterlife.coach. I'm just really deeply in gratitude for connecting with all of you, sharing this journey. You're making it a lot less lonely, and I really, really am grateful for that. So that is it. Thank you for stopping by. I wish you beautiful journeys and a peaceful continued lockdown. Let's stay in touch. Journey well.